the Hollywood Unapologetic Podcast with Orlando Delbert, Filmmaking Essentials.
Today, we're taking a look at a real giant of science fiction cinema.
We are indeed. Ridley Scott's 1982 film, Blade Runner. A lot to unpack there.
Definitely. And for you, we've pulled together quite a bit of material.
Yeah, we've got the Wikipedia page for the basics, a really good piece from the Vinyl Factory on Vangelis' soundtrack.
Oh, well, essential.
Totally. Plus, we dove into some Reddit threads. People really get passionate about this film, talking philosophy, memory, what it means to be human.
And the classic debates, best monologue, which cut to watch.
Exactly. And we'll even touch on some ideas from Duarte about audience connection, maybe try and figure out why this film still hits so hard.
Okay, so our mission here is to sift through all that, pull out the really compelling stuff, give you a solid sense of Blade Runner's impact and why it's still debated today.
Sounds like a plan. Where do we start? Maybe just the story itself, the plot.
Good idea. Let's ground ourselves. So, Rick Deckard, he's a Blade Runner, basically a replicant hunter, pulled out of retirement.
Right, because 6 Nexus 6 replicants have escaped and come to Earth. Super advanced, nearly identical to humans, but with a 4-year lifespan.
His first real lead takes him to Leon's hotel room.
And finds those little clues, some photos, and that synthetic snake scale. Seems minor, but it's important.
Yeah, it points towards their manufactured nature, these little attempts to build a life, maybe.
Exactly. And that scale leads him, doesn't it, to the Tyrell Corporation.
Where he meets Rachel.
Ah, Rachel. And this is where it gets really tangled. She thinks she's human. She even has a family photo.
Such a powerful scene. She's trying to prove her humanity.
And Deckard has to perform the Voight-Kampff test on her, and then he just drops that bombshell.
That her memories.
They're not hers. They're
implanted. Tyrell's niece's memories.
Yeah. Imagine that. Your entire sense of self, your past, just fabricated. It hits right at the core themes.
Absolutely brutal. Meanwhile, you've got the replicants, Roy and Leon, on their own mission.
Desperate, really. Trying to find a way to live longer. They track down this eye maker.
Chew, right. Which leads them to J.F. Sebastian.
Yeah, the genetic designer. He's lonely, kind of isolated, living in this decaying building. And Pris uses that, manipulates him to get access to Tyrell himself, their creator.
It shows their drive, their will to survive, fighting against how they were made.
Definitely. And then Deckard, following that snake scale clue,
ends up at Taffy Lewis's club.
Right. Confronts Zorro, the replicant posing as an exotic dancer. And that chase scene.
Through the crowded streets, crashing through glass. It's visually stunning, but also quite brutal when he, retires her.
And immediately after, he's told Rachel has vanished, and now she's on his list to retire. The lines just keep blurring for him.
Which leads to that confrontation, or rather, the ambush. Leon finds Deckard.
Yeah, and Deckard's about to buy it. He's totally overpowered.
And then Rachel saves him, uses his own gun to kill Leon.
A huge moment for her character. Self-preservation, maybe something more.
And then that. Really uncomfortable scene afterwards. Their discussion, the forced kiss. It's complex.
It really is. It speaks volumes about power dynamics, control, the messy reality of their situation. Not easy to watch.
No. And things really escalate from there. The final act, basically, at Sebastian's apartment.
Deckard gets ambushed again, this time by Pris. It's another pretty violent encounter before he manages to kill her.
And then Roy repeats, finds Pris dead, finds Sebastian dead too. Presumably, Roy killed him off screen after meeting Tyrell.
Yeah, the implication is Roy finally met his maker, didn't get the answer he wanted, and lashed out. Now his time is running out. Literally, you see his hand failing.
Which leads to that incredible rooftop chase. Deckard is fleeing, Roy is pursuing, clearly deteriorating, but still immensely powerful.
And then the climax. Deckard's hanging, about to fall.
And Roy. He saves him, pulls him up after everything.
It's such a powerful reversal.
Yeah.
And then he delivers that monologue, the tears in rain speech.
Just iconic. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. It still gives me chills.
Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watch sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhäuser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time like tears in rain.
It's poetry. And then he just dies. His lifespan ends.
And in that moment, saving Deckard, reflecting on his experiences, he seems arguably more human than anyone. It flips the whole premise.
Totally. And then Gaff arrives, Deckard's sort of police minder.
Yeah, with his cryptic lines. It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does? Referring to Rachel.
And leaving that tiny origami unicorn.
Which ties back to Deckard's earlier daydream, or implanted memory, depending on the version you watch and how you interpret it. It leaves everything ambiguous about Deckard himself.
And Deckard gets the message, grabs Rachel, and they leave. An uncertain future.
Such a dense plot. really, when you lay it all out. And central to his power is Roy Batty and Rutger Hauer's performance.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating that Ridley Scott cast Hauer without even meeting him, just based on his work with Paul Verhoeven.
Talk about intuition. And Philip K. Dick, the author of the original novel, apparently saw some footage and called Hauer the perfect Batty, cold, Aryan, flawless. High praise.
You can tell Hauer really connected with the role, too. He considered it a personal favorite.
He did. And that tears and rain speech.
Yeah.
The fact that he rewrote parts of it himself on set.
Yeah, apparently he felt the original lines were a bit too, I don't know, functional. He wanted more poetry.
And he delivered. He trimmed it down, added that tears in rain line. Arguably one of the most famous lines in sci-fi history, born from an actor's insight.
Incredible. It just elevated that whole final scene into something mythical.
It really did. It captured that sense of wonder and loss perfectly.
Okay, so moving from performance to the tech of this world.
Yeah.
The Voight-Kampff machine.
Right, the empathy test. It's basically this super advanced lie detector, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah. It measures involuntary physiological responses, breathing, heart rate, eye pupil dilation, capillary blushing.
Blushing, wow. Yeah, tiny reactions to emotionally loaded questions, often about animals, actually. The idea is replicants lack empathy, so their responses will be different from a human's.
It's straight from the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, though the spelling's slightly different there.
Voight-Kampff in the novel, yeah. But the concept is the same. And here's a funny aside. Apparently, back in 2003, a San Francisco paper actually used a mock version of the test on mayoral candidates.
No way. How did that go?
Well, it was tongue-in-cheek, but the implication was some politicians might struggle to pass an empathy test.
That's brilliant. Shows how that idea has kind of stuck in the culture.
It really has.
Yeah.
And visually, the machine itself is quite memorable. But speaking of visuals, the spinner car is maybe even more iconic.
Oh, yeah, the flying police car. Instantly recognizable.
Designed by the legendary Sid Mead. It was meant to be practical within that world, ground travel, jet propulsion, even anti-gravity, according to the press kits.
It just looks so functional, yet futuristic. Believable somehow.
Exactly. And Mead himself, apparently, was a fan of the Tesla Cybertruck design. He saw a connection.
Really? The angular look.
Yeah, he felt it had a similar aesthetic. And Elon Musk even pointed out the Cybertruck reveal happened in November 2019, the same month and year Blade Runner is set.
Whoa, that's a neat coincidence. Or maybe not entirely coincidence. Shows the film's visual influence.
Could be. The film's look has definitely had a long reach. And that Voight-Kampff machine, even as a fictional device, visually represents that core theme, trying to quantify humanity.
Absolutely. Which brings us perfectly to the sound, the music. Vangelis' soundtrack.
Oh, it's inseparable from the film. It is the atmosphere in many ways.
He created this amazing blend, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like classic sounds mixed with these futuristic synthesizers. Dark, melodic.
Perfectly capturing that retro future feel the whole film has. Noir vibes, but in a sci-fi setting.
And Vangelis was already huge then, right? Coming off the Oscar for Chariots of Fire.
Yeah, he's at the top of his game. And apparently, he had incredible creative control on Blade Runner. Composed, arranged, performed, produced everything himself.
Wow. A singular vision.
Totally. Took him a long time, apparently. You can hear that depth, that layering.
It's crazy to think the official soundtrack didn't come out for ages. Like over 10 years.
Yeah, 1994. Fans were desperate, trading bootlegs for years. And even the 94 release wasn't everything he recorded. There's supposedly much more.
Which just adds to the mystique, I guess. And wasn't there that track with Demis Roussos?
Tales of the Future, yeah. His vocals are really distinct. Apparently, the lyrics sound sort of vaguely Middle Eastern or Arabic, but they're mostly gibberish.
Really? Why?
The idea was to create this feeling of an alien, unfamiliar culture within the city's underbelly, contrasting with the cleaner corporate world above.
Yeah.
It's all about building that layered environment through sound, too.
That's clever. Using sound to show the social strata.
Exactly. And there were other little bits, too. Some Japanese music from Nipponia, some harp from Gail Lawton.
Yeah.
It all adds texture.
But it's Vangelis' synth score that defines it. It just evokes the past and the future all at once. Still sounds incredible.
Absolutely. It stands alone as great music beyond just being a film score. Hugely influential.
Okay, so we've got the plot, the key performance, the tech, the sound. Let's get into the real meat of it, the themes. Humanity, memory. This is where Blade Runner lives, right?
This is the core, definitely. The big question. What makes us human? And the film uses the Voight-Kampff test, focusing on empathy, as a kind of, well, a flawed yardstick.
Flawed is the key word, maybe. Those questions about animals, are they really the ultimate test of being human?
It's provocative.
The
But then the film immediately complicates it by making us question Deckard himself. Is he human?
eternal debate.
It is. Ridley Scott's on record saying, yes, Deckard is a replicant. He points to the director's cut, the unicorn dream.
Right, and Gaff leaving the origami unicorn at the end, implying Gaff knows Deckard's implanted memories or thoughts.
That's the main argument for it. But Harrison Ford disagrees. Lots of fans disagree.
And maybe the point isn't to have a definitive answer. Maybe the ambiguity is the point. It forces you to think about what matters more, origin or action.
I lean towards that view myself. One of the Reddit threads we looked at made a great point at, maybe it doesn't matter if he's human or replicant. What matters is his capacity for empathy, the experiences he has, the connections he makes.
Like with Rachel. Or even that final moment with Roy.
Exactly. And that connects to the sequel, too, Blade Runner 2049, with the character JOI exploring connection beyond just biology.
And the memory aspect is huge, too. Rachel's implanted memories.
Yeah, the Reddit discussions link this to Philip K. Dick's wider work, like The Man in the High Castle questioning reality, questioning memory. If your memories define you, what if they're fake?
It's such a mind-bending concept. Does the emotion tied to a memory feel less real if the memory itself wasn't earned?
The film suggests maybe not. Rachel's feelings seem genuine, regardless of their origin. It even makes you think about real-world possibilities, with technology and memory manipulation. Unsettling stuff.
Deeply unsettling. Okay, so these powerful themes, combined with everything else, have given Blade Runner this incredible legacy.
Absolutely. It wasn't a runaway hit initially, was it? Kind of a slow burn.
Right. Mixed reviews, decent but not huge box office. But then it just grew and grew into this massive cult classic.
Its influence is undeniable now. Recognized by the AFI, Library of Congress put it in the National Film Registry.
And you see its DNA everywhere, especially in video games.
Oh, definitely. Games like Snatcher, Beneath the Steel Sky,
Yeah.
Syndicate Wars, even things like Perfect Dark, that whole dystopian cyberpunky feel.
Tech noir. They say Blade Runner basically invented and perfected that subgenre all at once.
Pretty much. That mix of sci-fi elements with the mood, style, and themes of classic film noir. Rain-soaked streets, moral ambiguity, the lone investigator.
And we mentioned the potential Cybertruck link. Its visual language is still resonating.
It just consistently ranks as one of the all-time great sci-fi films in basically any poll you look at. Its status is secure.
So if someone's new to it or wants to revisit, there's the complication of the different versions, the cuts.
Right. This comes up a lot. There's the original 1982 theatrical cut.
Which had the studio-imposed voiceover from Harrison Ford, who famously hated doing it.
Yeah, and a happier, tacked-on ending using leftover footage from The Shining, bizarrely enough.
Then came the director's cut in '92, Scott's first real chance to adjust things.
No voiceover, restores the unicorn dream sequence, more ambiguous ending, generally considered much better.
And finally, the final cut in 2007.
Which Ridley Scott calls the definitive version. He tweaked some visuals, restored some violence that was cut, refined things further. It's visually the most polished.
And you see fans arguing online about which is best.
Constantly. The Reddit threads showed that. Most seem to lean towards the final cut now for the overall vision and atmosphere. The theatrical cut is often seen as the weakest because of that narration and ending.
But the existence of multiple cuts kind of adds to the whole experience, doesn't it? More to discuss and interpret.
It really does. It keeps the conversation going. Which ties into maybe why it resonates so much. We mentioned Duarte's ideas on connecting with an audience.
Right. The idea that for a message to land, it needs to tap into something the audience already feels or needs, tuning into their frequency almost.
And Blade Runner just hits so many fundamental human chords, doesn't it? Identity, mortality, love, memory, what it means to belong.
Universal stuff.
Exactly. Duarte talks about audience analysis, having a clear, big idea, using storytelling, contrast. Blade Runner does all that, maybe not intentionally in Duarte's terms, but effectively. The stunning visuals grab you, the music holds you, but it's those deep questions that make it stick.
The preparation Duarte mentions, maybe that's reflected in the incredible world building, the sheer detail.
Could be. The filmmakers clearly thought deeply about this world and these characters. It wasn't just surface level. And that depth, that resonates, it feels considered important.
So wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways?
Well, I think it's clear Blade Runner is way more than just a cool-looking sci-fi movie.
Definitely into humanity itself, especially as technology advances.
Exploring memory, empathy, what defines life. Plus, you've got the groundbreaking visuals, that incredible Vangelis score, It all combines into something really potent.
And the different cuts mean there are multiple ways to experience it, adding layers to its legacy.
Right. Which leads us to maybe a final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
Considering everything the film explores, implanted memories, sophisticated AI, blurring lines between human and synthetic, how does that make us think about our future as technology keeps racing ahead?
Like what happens to our definitions of identity and consciousness?
Exactly. Well, we need to redefine what humanity even means.
Yeah.
What parts of it might be challenged when biology isn't the only basis for complex thought or deep feeling.
That's a heavy question.
It is. And it's one Blade Runner, in whichever cut you watch, leaves echoing long after the credits roll. Something to ponder. You can find more insights on navigating the entertainment industry and achieving success in Orlando Delbert's work, including his book, Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical, and of course, the Hollywood Unapologetic platform. And always remember, you are the key to your own success. You are the new Hollywood generation.
Be informed, be prepared, and most importantly, be great.
That's it. Be great. Good luck out there.
See you next time.